Founded in Arkansas, based in Memphis, little company called FedEx. In 77, I believe they were doing something in the neighborhood of 19,000 packages per night. In 2023, they're in about 24 million a night. Sometimes we can be our worst enemy. We excel, we do some unbelievably great things, and the customer comes to expect it. And then we realize, well, is it really needed? Is it the most efficient way?
Mm-hmm. Quite frankly, it pisses me off. Be candid with you, is the lack of value in the final mile, last mile space. And I blame no one but ourselves first and foremost, right? How can we ask anyone to respect us, to value us if we don't do it ourselves?
Chuck Moyer, president of Task for Pros, and you're watching Last to First.
Story time with drop-off. The lab test that just couldn't wait. A hospital system needed a delivery fast. The patient was prepped, the doctors were waiting, and time was just not on their side. Enter drop-off. Drop-off showed up with the certified driver, temperature-controlled equipment, and live updates along the way. That wasn't just moving a package, it was saving a life. And that's the type of reliability that drop-off brings in 35+ markets across the U.S. Powered by smart technology, but always with people and drivers who care. Turn this story into your reality. Visit dropoff.com today.
Last of First family, Jason Burns here, and welcome back to our next episode of the Last of First podcast, where we bring you the latest, the greatest, the innovators that's moving this sector from last to first in today and tomorrow's supply chain. All right, so, I like to introduce my guest and say it's a special guest, but today it's beyond special. This is someone that is an industry legend. He is an innovator. He's a past CLDA president. He's the president of Task for Pros, and really one of the most thoughtful, knowledgeable people in the final mile space. I'm welcomed with Chuck Moyer. Chuck, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you. Quite an introduction there. I appreciate it, but
Well,
yeah.
you earned it. You've earned it.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Before we get into it, so we've shared many rooms together. This one's got a lot more bright lights in it. It's a little hot in here. But I've always appreciated your command of knowledge, and you've always been someone that kind of has had foresight and been an innovator in this space. And so today's conversation, I'm super excited to have it because I think what you're going to bring to the audience is your many years of experience. I don't want to age you here. You're not that old. But also you have this unique ability to see kind of where the puck is going. And I think that's super important in today's world we live in because things are changing very, very fast, and we have an opportunity to capitalize on that. So I'm excited. So welcome.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it and look forward to the discussion.
Let's do it. So normally I get into these interviews and I actually explain your background. We'll get to that. I promise you we'll get to that. The first question is, we talk about innovation. What would you describe as the biggest innovation that you've seen in the final mile? It could be something in the past, something in the future that's making the most significant impact on this industry.
Well, certainly we would have to say technology, and that's a broad topic.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, and again, with as long as I've been in the industry and the gray hair or lack of hair, when I started out, dispatch was manual cards and slots on the wall.
Yeah.
We didn't have mapping software. Everybody had a map book in their vehicle.
Yeah, yeah.
We didn't have the cell phone capabilities. We had 800 megahertz two-way radios.
Yep.
So we didn't have a lot of that technology. And when you think about how quickly that changed the industry, and when you think about everything that's going on now, let alone between that time frame getting us up to, say, 10 years ago.
Yep.
Well, now with things are moving so much faster, and with AI, you got Chat GPT out,
Yep.
number 5 out. Well, I've got a friend of mine that I've been talking with that's in that arena. He's already on 8. And what it can do and the way it'll change our world is amazing. So from an innovation standpoint, the way you run your business, the way you operate, the efficiencies gained, there's going to be a lot of resources that'll allow that. And also, looking at it from an international standpoint, we can look at it and say, okay, well, what's going on in Chicago?
Yeah.
Well, other parts of the world are developing additional technologies that will quickly come to the U.S. and vice versa, that will change our world. So I would say people should at least spend time getting familiar and trying to think out in front of that.
Yeah.
Because, the people who embrace it, use it, adjust accordingly to it are the ones that are going to be, on the winning edge of that.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you don't, you're going to be left behind, right?
Oh.
You have a choice to make, and the folks that are kind of stuck in the sand a little bit, they won't get there. Speaking of that, we were talking off camera earlier about international logistics, what's happening in space. I posted something today on one of my stories. This was in China. Two things from China I saw. One was a fully autonomous electronic, looks like a container that was going down the highway, driving itself, essentially going to make a delivery to another dock. And then another post I saw, this super highway system they built under the ocean, underwater, 6 lanes. There's a lane dedicated to, I think, transportation. And you can go above the water. It was just mind-blowing to see the innovations that's happening around the world. We'll get into later kind of your international experience because you're going to bring that to the table. But just touch on that, what you've seen from a global perspective of what's happening with supply chains.
Yeah, so I'll get into the global side of it, but even before that, earlier this year I was up in Detroit, attended a conference. Conference probably had in attendance close to 10,000 people.
Wow.
Took 3 floors of the convention center, and it was all on technology, robotics, you name it. And just walking the floors and seeing what that equipment could do. They had autonomous vehicles, forklifts, the robots, all the machinery. And you could just sit there and look at it and picture what the future looks like. And it does change our world.
Let's pick up
So in the late 70s, we had a company come on the scene in 76. They actually didn't start deliveries till 77, I believe. And, they was founded in Arkansas, based in Memphis.
We've all heard the saying before, trust but verify. But in the last mile, when you're working with agents and master contractors, verification is manual, complex, and very rarely achieved. Enter GigSafe. GigSafe solved the problem that matters to you most. They've built a new network compliance tool that ties in master contractors, agents, and carriers so they can connect, validate, and authenticate their delivery and driver networks. With automated onboarding, live compliance tracking, and insurance verification, all happening in real time. No spreadsheets, no follow-ups, no more hoping that my partners are doing it right. Just one connected platform where visibility and control are at every layer of your operation. Turn your compliance into your competitive advantage. Visit gigsafe.com today.
Little company called FedEx.
Small little operator.
In 77, I believe they were doing something in the neighborhood of 19,000 packages per night.
Okay.
In 2023, they're in about 24 million a night. If you think about the way things are changing,
Yeah.
Amazon came on the scene in 95, I believe. In 99, they were ranked the largest retailer in the U.S.
4 years later.
Over 4 years time frame. If we look at, we just had the 9/11 anniversary.
Yeah.
You and I lived through that as far as what it meant for this industry in final mile space.
Changed everything.
It changed our world.
Yeah.
And ever since then, it's changed it. Everything from security to how things are moved, how the banks operate. We hear a lot about disruptors, supply chain disruptions, be it weather, be it, whatever the case may be. We talk a lot about visibility and transparency. Well, in today's world, we got more users involved in linking a product from manufacturing to the end user than we ever have. and how those companies are linked together, how they provide a positive customer experience and visibility to where that product is and any issues along the way
Yep.
is critical. And companies have to adjust to it.
Yeah. And companies have to adjust to it because the consumer behavior, you're kind of referencing Amazon, is forcing companies to adopt.
Yeah. We used to have a pull method supply chain, meaning, companies pulled the product through the supply chain. And, somebody ordered something, I'll go way back, Sears catalog. Well, it got pulled through supply chain and they got it when they got it and they were happy. Well, now it's a push method and it's all getting pushed through the supply chain. And I've commented on this. You and I have talked about it before. If I order something from Amazon, I may not need it for 3 or 4 days, but they tell me it'll be there that afternoon or tomorrow. And if it's not, I'm not a happy camper. The customer experience is not good.
Yeah.
And I realize I don't need it, for 3 or 4 more days. But just because of that commitment, the lack of transparency and communication and the impact on that customer experience, it all goes negative, even though it didn't impact me at the end of the day at all, other than my mood.
Yeah. It's like the way I think about it. You use a great analogy: the pull method versus the push method. But the push method, you've almost given the controls of the game to the end consumer now. So they're controlling the buttons. There's a lot of supply chains and dynamic routing and stuff that's now, and we'll get more into this, but that's predicated based off of what that end consumer, their convenience, their availability when they want it. And so you're going to your point about adapting, right? Like that's a total shift. And just in the time I've been in this space, grew up in it, but really operating 15, 20 years. You never thought about the consumer to that degree where they're going to dictate how my supply chain operates. And it's a game changer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, it goes even beyond supply chain. You're at one of your son's ball games and you order food to be delivered to the ballpark. We never even thought of us doing something like that. You just hope they had a hot dog stand.
Yeah.
But we also see in that trend a little bit of reversal. Sometimes we can be our worst enemy. We excel, we do some unbelievably great things, and the customer comes to expect it.
Yeah.
And then we realize, well, is it really needed? Is it the most efficient way? So that's why now you see the lockers and, Amazon pushing, if you wait an extra day, you get a credit and all this other stuff because it allows them to be more efficient. And even from the crowdsourcing standpoint, use those resources much more efficiently.
Yeah.
Instead of, I've had times where I ordered 3 different things from Amazon, 3 different drivers came to the house. It's like, what are you thinking?
So we maybe overcorrected too far. So now you see some things kind of coming back into place. I want to go back because for the folks in the audience that may not know your story and have that appreciation for how you got to where you are today, walk us back through like your origin story, your journey. Like, how'd you get into Final Mile? I know you've for over 40 years. And you've probably worked every single job that you could possibly have in this industry, from warehouse operator to driver, customer service. I know you did some air freight stuff. Obviously, then into the managerial level. So I want you to give us some sense of your experience and how that's impacted, your career, but also kind of how you see the world.
Yeah, so really been blessed. And we can talk about that more a little bit later. But from a blessed standpoint, I was going to college, needed extra money. So I started working in warehousing. The company I was working for ultimately asked me if I'd be interested in learning how to drive tractor trailers and bumping, putting them into the dock doors.
Yeah.
Because we were working third shift, taking classes during the day. Of course. Yeah. I'm game. That sounds cool. Drive a big truck. Then ultimately put me on the road. And then I ended up driving a tractor trailer for a few years. Good experience. Enjoyed it.
Yeah. You over the road or local?
Over the road,
Okay.
regional.
Okay.
And then when I left that company after school, started working for an air freight company and started working air freight. And I started out with them, driving for them, and then came inside and started doing some management stuff on the air freight side. Decided it was time to settle down, get married. My wonderful wife, Pam.
Miss Pam. Tell us hello.
41 years, I'm glad to say.
Awesome. Congratulations.
I hope I didn't mess that up.
Yeah.
But,
We can edit this out if so.
Just wanted to find something a little more steady, close to home, etc.
Sure.
And there was a company in Final Mile Space that a friend of mine told me about and said, you ought to go over and talk to them. Well, I did. At the time, probably went through 4 different interviews. And the guy told me, he said, I've got, I forget the exact number now, but 35 drivers working 50 hours, delivering small packages within, the metropolitan area. And I've got more packages and stuff than they can handle, and they're averaging 50 hours a week. Leave the first interview. And again, I'm a driver. I've got some idea, right?
Yeah.
Not ever dealt with small package at that stage.
Yeah.
And I think, there ain't no way he's got 35 drivers working 50 hours a week and he's got more small packages that he can handle going across town. And in hindsight, realizing that I went through 3 or 4 interviews before I was brought on, wasn't hired because I was brought on as an independent contractor, owner, operator, driving my own truck. And fast forward, I worked with that company for about 10 plus years.
Okay.
Worked my way up through, I drove for them for about a year. They asked me if I wanted to come in as an employee, came in as a dispatcher, worked my way up through operations, ultimately became their senior operations manager over multiple sites. And great experience. We can talk about it more, but one of the things I was blessed with was, a good mentor, good people around me.
Yeah.
The network, guys like you and people that I've met over the years. It's really been a great ride.
Yeah.
So did that, ended up taking a position out of state, relocating my family.
Okay.
Said I never would do it. And I learned never to say never. We did it. Started with a company that was more of a younger startup type company
Okay.
in Final Mile Space, but they were probably a little less than $3 million annual revenue.
Okay. Now where'd you relocate to?
Memphis, Tennessee.
Memphis. Okay.
And no, it wasn't FedEx.
Not this time.
But so I went to work with them. They brought me in, 2 owners, and they, just needed somebody really to run the operation. And brought me in, and over the years, they basically, for all practical purposes, became absenteeism owners. Came in, they came into the office, and obviously we met every month and reviewed financials and whatnot. But I was running the company on a day-to-day basis.
Okay.
And we grew that. I was with that company, I don't know, probably close to 20 years, maybe. Close to it. And took it through 2 exits. I worked with private equity. Took it from a little under 3 mil up to about 100 mil annual revenues.
That's significant.
Strong bottom line. Learned a lot from private equity groups.
I got more questions there.
And, it really got me thinking bigger picture outside the box throughout that career pathway, if you will.
Yeah.
You and I talked about it before. I like to think I'm a creative thinker, problem solver. So I learned early on that you can't just go into any position or run a company and do it the way it's always been done.
Yeah.
So, for example, when I went to work for the company and they brought me inside in dispatch, I got the old, a lot of people probably won't understand when they hear this, but the old pager, and we were on call 24 hours, and
I'm old enough to remember the pages.
So I'd take it home first night, and I'm newlywed, and it must have gone off 20 some times.
In the last mile world, we value technology that looks good but doesn't get the job done. That's why different is different. Built by courier pros with over 35 years of real-world operational experience. Sorting freight, dispatching drivers, missed scans. They built the technology platform that they always needed. You get lightning-fast dispatching and routing, a driver app that eliminates confusion and adds visibility. Back office automation and tools from on-demand to air freight, all in one place. Need proof? Their courier business grew 300% in just 3 weeks without any new hires and managing 150 drivers. Ready for tech that gets it? Visit deliverdifferent.com and book your demo today.
And I thought, what in the world? I thought, this can't be right.
Yeah.
Second night, same thing. And not settling for status quo, for my own survival, for my marriage, sanity, took those 20 calls and mapped them out and started solving, okay, well, there's 4 different trends here. Let's fix this, fix that. By the end of the first week that I was on call, we had it down to single digits. By the second week that I was on call, we got it down to 1 call every 2 or 3 nights.
Wow.
And it was just not accepting that status quo and looking at it and saying, there's a better way. Now, what is it?
Yeah, yeah. A lot there. I want to park you for a second on this because there's a couple things that came up as you were talking. One, 3 million to 100 million. Like, how does that happen? Like how, it was a 20-year period roughly. You said you were with the company about 20 years.
Yeah, I would say that time frame. Yeah, it was probably in the 16, 17 years.
So were there a couple verticals that you kind of built that you guys got really, really good at honing in on? Or was it all organic? Did you acquire companies?
During that time frame, before private equity, we didn't acquire any.
Okay.
We just grew organically. We scaled ourselves. We've self-funded the whole 9 yards.
Wow.
And grew it from really 2 facilities to about 28 facilities.
Okay.
And we can talk about that some too, because that's not always a good thing.
Well, let's talk about it because we've had folks on the podcast before. Bigger is not always better, right? And I've had plenty of people share with me when I was operating my business and certainly now doing this, where they say, hey, I was making just as much money at 10 million top line than I was making at 50 million top line, or et cetera. So you've been a part of big companies, small companies that are going big. What have you taken away from those experiences?
Well, if anybody came to me and asked that question or told me that they were in the middle of that, the first question I would ask is, why and what's your strategy to support it? Because a lot of companies that I've talked with and different owners, well, I just want to grow and be bigger. Well, that's not a good reason. If it's adding value, if it's increasing the valuation of the company, if it's driving your EBITDA, if it doesn't tie in your long-term strategy with all that, then why?
Why are you doing it?
It doesn't make any sense. So if you look at it, anybody that wants to scale, if you can't scale and grow geographically and open new facilities and be more efficient and drive profits higher, then don't do it. I mean, it's a lot of work. There's challenges that people who haven't done it will be shocked by.
Yeah.
And the cash flow drain and everything else. I mean, you got to have a good plan and a good strategy and a good purpose to do it.
Yeah.
There's other ways to grow your company in final mile space, add value from an evaluation standpoint, not just for sake of growth, open up new facilities.
Yeah.
And we can talk about that too more because there's a lot of different approaches now that wasn't available 20 years ago.
Well, I've got two more follow-up questions on this part of the conversation. So when you did finally exit, and you mentioned you exit to private equity, I know just from you obviously being closer, you stayed on with the organization post the acquisition. What shifted, if anything, from how the company was managed from one day to the next? And obviously, I don't want to take you too far because I know how the story played out. But were there some early things that you saw that said, I'm not sure, or was it once you got in there, things just started shifting and changes occurred?
I would say I probably come from a little bit of a unique perspective.
Okay.
You'll hear horror stories out there. You'll hear excellent stories out there. And depending on who I'm talking with, if an owner came to me and said, Chuck, I'm thinking about an exit, how should I go about it? We would get into a very lengthy conversation. Again, it ties back to really what's your goals?
All right.
But to answer your question specifically on the private equity, I took company through 2 exits, or was involved in it. Certainly a lot of good people was involved in it. But what I learned was exciting, new, thrilling. We had a good company, growing, good bottom line, everybody happy. Culture and the atmosphere was as good as you could ask for. When private equity came in, learning from those guys, how they slice and dice and, the data and look at it.
Yeah.
I'd never seen anything like it before.
Yeah,
it was
next level.
Oh, yeah, it was amazing. I kind of equated it to, we were driving down the interstate at 75 miles an hour and sun's out and everybody's happy. Private equity came in and we had resources to do things that, we didn't necessarily have earlier. And all of a sudden we took advantage of that and we found ourselves going down the interstate at 110 miles an hour. And, you don't want to live there.
Yeah.
Sooner or later you're going to get caught or the engine's going to blow.
Yeah.
But we did. We took it up to that level and then backed it off. And we ended up probably 80, 85 miles an hour.
Okay.
Pretty safe.
Yeah.
Chances are, on the interstate, you're not going to get a ticket for driving 82 miles an hour or
Still
something.
going pretty fast. Yeah.
But we were accomplishing and doing more than we were previous.
Okay.
So, great experience, good relationship, a lot of stories, detail behind that. The second time we went through and did exit, beautiful vision. Really was excited about it, and it didn't quite play out the way they intended for a lot of different reasons.
Okay.
But overall, just like life, good experiences, and you learn from it, and you become better because of it.
Yeah, yeah. So let's segue into the next part of the conversation, because you mentioned that you had, at peak, you guys had 28 facilities around the country, right? So that's a lot of real estate space that you're managing, a lot of people you're managing. I think if we talk about innovations and AI and the impact on the human element, just and it's going to kind of segue into what you do now with Task for Pros. when you think about the people side of business, particularly the warehousing side, right? When I got into the industry, this is 2008. Our business at the time had no warehousing. We did no cross docking. We did no inventory management. Nothing. And then over the years, I started picking up pointers from people like you. I remember you came to our facility in New Orleans, and we were talking about a piece of business, and you were asking how big the space we had, and you started walking it off in the warehouse, and you kind of measuring it off, and I was like, man, this guy's he's dialed in. But I think sometimes we miss the impact of the people and how hard it is to keep those locations staffed up, operating at a high capacity. You open yourself up to a lot more safety concerns and issues because you have product now that can walk out the door. When you guys were managing, two-part question, when you were managing 28 facilities, how were you able to do that effectively? And then it's going to transition us into kind of where you're doing today and what the improvements you see.
Yeah, so a couple different things. Even post private equity, we were at 51 or 52.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it does require paying a lot of attention to it. And we could probably spend hours just talking on that topic. But again, it's your people knowing you care. You treat them like you want to be treated, the old golden rule. And at the same time, using technology and other vehicles to give them a better quality of life, and for your people to understand that you have their back, if you will. To use an example, both with the people and from a technology standpoint. During that time frame, we had a location down on the Gulf Coast.
Okay.
All it was a very small, almost not much bigger than a 2-car garage. And all it was because we had activity coming from Louisiana, Alabama, Georgia that needed to cross-dock.
Yeah.
Well, we had 2 employees there because the time of the trucks coming in and out and everything wasn't efficient. So, again, thinking about it, trying to get that creative aspect going, I thought about it for quite some time, and I thought there's got to be a better way. And ended up having lunch with a guy in Nashville that was running one of the national home business security companies. And we had lunch, and he said, why don't you come back and look at our facility? I walked in, and he had 4 or 5 people sitting in this room, and it looked like NASA. There were so many monitors and stuff. But he was using technology, I forget now, but it was tens of thousands of properties they were managing with 4 or 5 people.
Wow.
Using technology that way. So it got me thinking about it. I went back, and our tech team, some good guys, I said, here's what I just seen. And we had 2 people down on the Gulf Coast. One of them was getting ready to retire.
Okay.
I said, I want us to get to the point where when that person retires, we don't have to replace them. And here's what I'm thinking. Well, long story short, because I'm rambling a little bit, but long story short, I went down, looked at different facilities, and there was a self-storage unit that was rated for hurricanes. In fact, Homeland Security parked 2 of their big buses at this facility.
Yeah.
Security gates, you were on videotape when you came in, you had a key pass, all this stuff. And so as soon as you got to the gate all the way through, they was monitoring you. We ended up, and it cost us about $400 a facility. But we had a 1,000 square foot facility. It was basically a bay that you could park an RV in.
Yeah.
And our drivers would hit the code on the gate, so we knew exactly who was coming. We had it on videotape. Got to the door and hit the code on our door, combination code. When the door opened, the building powered up. We put a monitor right inside the door. Wow. And a dispatcher sitting in Nashville, Tennessee, talking to the driver and telling him, yeah, Jason, there's an extra part on shelf 3A going to Mary down on Main Street. If the guy was out of uniform, had his kid with him, whatever it might be, he was seeing it and they were talking real time, over the video. Got his stuff, closed the door, building powered back down. We had dispatchers in Nashville that could monitor multiple facilities.
Yeah.
It worked so well, we started, larger facilities that we had people maybe stay until 2 o'clock for line haul trucks. We put in chain link fence, put in the same system, let the guys go home at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Because we didn't need them there till 2 o'clock, and the technology and the systems handled it.
That's awesome.
So taking care of your people, understanding quality of life, and genuinely, it's never all roses, but people sense if you really care or not.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome because it talks about how, even this was years ago, right, when this was happening, how you're able to think outside the box, have an unattended delivery, right? So you're cutting costs. There's some sustainability in that, right? You're pounding the building down. It also probably, what I can appreciate about is a lot of times, particularly that overnight piece, whether you're talking about dispatching or drivers on call, like, it's hard to manage that part. And so any way you can automate those windows of time where you can really gain efficiency, gain some traction, is going to be a win for the organization. Let me move you to Task for Pros. So, and obviously we'll try to get back in the story. We got limited time here, so there's so much. We may have to do a part 2 of this episode. But your current role, which you spend most of your time doing, is as the president of Task for Pros. What is Task for Pros, first of all?
Okay, well, I'll back up 1 second because becoming past president of the association, making some changes, I got involved in international supply chain. And actually had the pleasure of working with a couple companies that their manufacturing was overseas. They didn't have a U.S. presence other than selling online. So they needed a delivery network port to door. So they would ship it, it would come into the port, but they didn't have that delivery network to get it to the end user.
Right.
So helping a couple situations like that, working with them. During COVID, getting PPE equipment in. Guys calling, wanting to charter a jet for gloves and masks from Singapore because the West Coast ports were all backed up and stuff. Was very interesting. And got a phone call one day, and the guy on the other end said, Chuck, understand you're the guy that we should talk with, and wanted to know if I was available to do some work with him. And we talked through it. Long story short, Latin American company based in Brazil, founder and partners there. They had been in business about 4 years, built some proprietary technology.
Okay.
That is just wonderful. And wanted somebody to come in, look at what they were doing in Brazil, and tell them how it needed to be modified to be able to expand to the U.S. and North America.
Okay.
So went down, worked with them. Great group, great team. That time we probably had 30 or so developers, proprietary technology. And so I did an industry report on on-demand labor.
Okay.
And for anybody that not familiar with the term, a lot of companies will use temp agencies, staffing companies. That is old school on-demand labor, and typically doesn't have a very positive perception.
Yeah.
So in identifying industry trends, SWOT analysis, meeting with Fortune 500 companies as well as some regional providers, it was the same story.
Okay.
Whenever they have to use that type of labor, the quality wasn't there. They weren't trained. They may not be classified properly, so forth and so on. Wasn't reliable, so forth. A lot of different things. So when I met with him and when we talked through it, we built Task for Pros US. In Brazil, they could use independent contractors. Here in the U.S., if you're warehouse labor, you're not a 1099.
No.
You're a W-2 employee, and most temp agencies, staffing companies pay them as 1099s. So it's opening up clients to misclassification, co-employment type lawsuits. Mm-hmm. So here in the U.S., we set it up as risk management, scalability, sustainability, and profitability was the 4 pillars that we focused on. And first, risk management with the W-2. We provide the unemployment, the workers' comp, the benefits, everything. Obviously, there are employees, so it handles that side of it. And then from a scalability standpoint, some of the companies that I work with, some of the companies that I've talked with, one in particular that you and I spoke about earlier was running 34% overtime.
Okay.
And when I met with him, I said, obviously, Final Mile guy, I knew him, and talking through it, I said, what are you doing?
What's driving this?
Well, Task for Pros, we come in, they're running 4 or 5% overtime now. Because we manage that aspect of it, let alone taking the workers' comp, unemployment, and everything else off of them, the recruiting. And, the model is totally focused on quality, meeting or exceeding expectations. And I've had multiple clients come back to me and say, Chuck, how are you doing this? Because we can't hire people ourselves, and you're finding people better than we can find, and light years better than our other temp agency that we brought in.
Yep.
And it's because we focus and we built the model designed for the workforce of today and tomorrow, driving quality and exceeding expectations. And it's working out quite well.
So give me an example of a recent client success story. Like how and then maybe before you do that. So again, I mentioned earlier, we had issues with labor, particularly in the warehouse. We would use a staffing company locally in New Orleans several times to pull people in. Oftentimes, if they showed up, right? Many times they never showed up, which meant I was back unloading a truck or driving a forklift, and that's no bueno. Although I'm certified. I'm a certified forklift driver. I can still get in there and back it up. But it was a challenge. But you're saying your solution, Task for Pro solution, is different than a staffing company. So how? And then give me some real world examples of like how quickly you can turn solutions, turn around. It's a very turnkey operation.
Yeah, be glad to and love the opportunity. But at Task for Pros, when we focused on the industry and the model that we were bringing to the U.S., we wanted to redefine and establish new industry standards. So, for example, when you look at the industry reports with temp agency staffing companies, their fill rate is between 70 and 80%. What that means is if you ordered 10 temps, 7 or 8 are going to show up. The companies I talked with, 7 or 8 show up, but then at the first break, I never see them again, or when they come back in from their car, there's a problem. Our fill rate, where the industry reports are 70 to 80%, our fill rate is 99.4%. In part because of the proprietary technology that we have built and we operate on. Turnover rate in that industry, depending on what reports you look at, is basically 50%, 48 to 54%.
It's a lot.
Ours is 16.2%.
Wow.
And a lot of that is because our recruiting, the way we focus, the way we really vet the people. We do background checks, drug screens, etc. To answer your second part of that, because I know we're limited on time, is I'll use two different examples. One, I had a client that about this time last year, we met on a Tuesday, and he said, Chuck, I'm going to need second shift with peak starting up.
Yeah.
I said, okay, no problem. I said, how soon do you think you'll need it? He said, oh, probably 3, maybe 4 weeks. No problem. That was a Tuesday. Thursday afternoon, about 4:30, I got a phone call, and he said, Chuck, I apologize, but volume hit much sooner than we expected. I need second shift as fast as we can get it up and running.
Damn.
So we're talking Thursday at 4:30. Monday night, we had a second shift, fully staffed, trained on their scanners, their sort and seg, all their processes, everything. So second shift Monday night was up and running, worked beautifully. At the end of the week, we had a conversation. He said, Chuck, I don't know how you did it. One, that fast. Two, the quality, because second shift outperformed first shift as far as pieces per labor hour processed.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, well, there's a lot of factors into that, I won't take all the credit, but, I'll take some.
Yeah.
And then two, it goes back to that creative component that we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
I was up in Virginia meeting with one of our manufacturing clients. And we're talking forklift operators.
Okay.
And I was using the term certified forklift operators.
Okay.
Just because that's the
normal
way I'm
phase.
programmed in the dorm.
Yep.
And the trainer said, Chuck, you'll never find certified forklift operators up here. It's a rural part of Virginia. And they said, people will apply and say they know how to drive a forklift. They got forklift experience. When they come in, maybe they've done a pallet jack.
Yeah.
So in that conversation, I actually asked him, I said, well, if we opened up a forklift training school for certifying operators here, would that be helpful to you in the organization? My point of contact said, Chuck, if you do that, we will give you 100% of our forklift operators. And there's a significant other business, but it's still a very rural area.
Yeah.
So long story short, about 6 weeks ago, we opened up a forklift training school.
That's awesome.
For certifying people. Again, with the mindset, we're helping the client.
Yeah.
We're helping the pros because they're getting skill sets that they didn't have before so they can increase their earning potential.
Yep.
And obviously, we benefit from it also.
Yeah.
In fact, we opened about 6 weeks ago, and the ribbon cutting is tomorrow. And Chamber of Commerce and communities coming out strong for it, it sounds like.
It's fascinating because you're talking about solving a real critical issue, the labor, doing it very, very quickly. And those rates you mentioned, like the fill rate, the turnover rate, I'm still trying to see how you're doing it, right? I won't ask you to give me and the audience the secret sauce, at least not on camera. I won't do that. But do you see more opportunities in final mile or other aspects in the supply chain? Or do you see any tie-in with what, you maybe off camera you mentioned Task with Pros initially was based in Brazil, right? So you're bringing a lot of the U.S. elements to the solution now. Where do you see the continued growth and the role that business can play as the final mile or just the supply chain continues to evolve and grow?
Yeah, so when we opened up Task for Pros in the U.S., we focused primarily on supply chain logistics. A lot of contacts, right? Take advantage of that. And then started getting into the manufacturing side of it. And modified the model a little bit for the manufacturing companies. But if you think about labor challenges in the U.S. Every company has got labor challenges. I've got one guy that called me from California. He said, Chuck, I tried to do some offshoring and it wasn't a good experience for me. Other people have had great experiences with it. It was not for this guy. He said, Chuck, with what I deal with from a labor standpoint in California, regulatory side of it more than anything, he said, could you bring those people on and base them in Nashville and they work for me remotely? You know, yeah, no reason we can't. Drivers, I'm in the process right now of working with legal and insurance company and seeing how we can, because in Brazil we provide driver helpers and stuff.
Okay.
Again, I could tell you some stories there that was amazing impact for the bottom line of the clients. But looking at that, so hopefully here in the not too distant future, we can maybe help some companies in that arena. Healthcare, you know, might be farther down the road, but right now with the nursing shortage and everything else, home health care, that is a huge arena for anybody who's had to deal with family members in that situation. And, you know, again, it gives them quality of life. You know, the workforce today and tomorrow wants to have that flexibility and some quality of life where when I came up through the ranks, it was, you know, bear down, pay your dues, you know, and make it happen. And I enjoy it. I still enjoy it.
What about, so I want to get into some of the other innovations that have happened that you've seen. And really, and I want to tie them into what I see as something that's, you know, it quite frankly, it pisses me off. You know, be candid with you, is the lack of value in the final mile, last mile space. And I blame no one but ourselves first and foremost, right? How can we ask anyone to respect us, to value us if we don't do it ourselves? But you have this convergence of all this new technology. We're talking about AI with predictive analytics and route optimization, and everything's coming there. You've got AVs and EVs. You referenced earlier the kind of gig economy, crowdsourcing. So all these things are coming in to contain costs, sometimes adding more competition. And on the other end of it, you have more proliferation of e-commerce, consumer behavior. We touched on that earlier, and how that's going to impact the growth of final mile, but yet the value of it hasn't really taken shape yet. And I look at other industries, other segments, and I see value creation happening. We've talked about, you know, every time you do something, you look to create value through creativity. One, does it piss you off too? First, am I alone here?
Yeah, I wouldn't go as far as saying it pisses me off.
Okay.
I'm probably disappointed a little bit in myself and the industry from not taking full advantage of some opportunities that we had. At the same time, you know, you and I both being past presidents of the CLDA, CLDA's come a long way and the industry has progressed an awful lot, matured a lot from, you know, 40 plus years ago.
Yes.
But if you think about it, or at least when I think about it, does it upset me a little bit as far as people not understanding the value proposition? Yes. You take an overnight delivery, and be it going across town or whatever, but let's just say overnight delivery, less than a pound, going across town, delivered next business day. What you pay for that overnight delivery versus people in the final mile space providing 1 or 2 hour service, you'll pay probably in the range of 40% more for the overnight delivery when you could have had it there in an hour or two much cheaper. Does that make any sense? Not the way I look at it.
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense. Maybe that's the right price for the overnight delivery, but then it lends itself to the discussion Okay, then why isn't the 1 or 2 hour delivery more valuable than the next day delivery?
Exactly.
Let alone some of the critical items that are being moved. We just had 9/11 anniversary.
Yeah.
This industry sector did a tremendous benefit to the country when all the planes were grounded. From a financial standpoint, checks weren't moving to the Federal Reserve banks because the planes weren't moving. And member companies in the final mile space came together and created that delivery network and moved it all by ground.
Yeah.
The financial impact of the country, if that wouldn't have happened, it scares me to even think about it, let alone all the medical items, products. I can remember early in my career, a news crew following the driver from the airport to the hospital because he had a heart in a Playmate cooler. Nowadays, you'll catch more grief if pack of pencils is late than you would, a heart transplant or something.
Yeah.
But so there's some imbalance there, certainly.
Yeah. And so I think there's look, I think the future looks very bright for the industry. I think, yes, you've talked about it. I think the one thing folks can do is if you're an audience, is to, one, understand your value, right? Understand the bigger picture, educate yourself on that. And two, be creative, right? Find unique ways to solve problems because, look, the reality is, one of the things, what we call it, custom logistics or creative logistics, you are bringing something unique to the marketplace that most people can't do. And so there is a value to that. And I think as long as we can collectively understand that, we will keep trending in the right direction, hopefully, on that.
Yeah, and from that standpoint, keeping it new, keeping it fresh, that's the fun side of it, the creative side, right?
Yeah.
And we've heard it a lot just since earlier this year with current administration. Every country wants to do work in the U.S. Mm-hmm. Every business knows the U.S. is a market that they would like to have market share in. Mm-hmm. And understanding that and understanding how that may impact inbound activity and how you can position yourself when you're looking at your company from a strategic perspective is an important component.
Yeah.
And then, you asked me earlier about how things have changed. And, well, I don't know if the term is one that, would be widely accepted, but I refer to it as the general contractor methodology. Early in my career, basically a company had to do it all. Mm-hmm. Technology wasn't there, et cetera. You didn't have crowdsourcing, all the other stuff.
Yeah.
Well, now, there's so many different pieces. You don't have to develop the software and technology yourself. You can go out and find a partner or buy that yourself.
Yeah. Same
way with automation, technology, labor challenges. I would say instead of being a general contractor methodology type of approach with multiple pieces, be that project manager, but take all those pieces to create something unique that adds value for your organization.
Yeah.
And drives profitability and efficiencies.
Yeah. Think outside the box.
Yeah.
We're getting up on our time here, but I want to ask you a question I'd like to ask all of our guests, which is kind of your last or first moment. It's whether it's personal, professional, it's kind of that moment you can point to, or maybe it's a period of time where you made a couple decisions or something happened and it kind of, put your trajectory onto the path of last or first, right? Going to where you are now. So when you think back of your career and all the different experiences and people that you've come across along your journey, what is that moment for you?
Man, you went and got deep on me. Great question, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
Because the personal side matters. The personal side of what we do matters. We don't get a chance to talk about that enough because we're talking shop a lot. But at the end of the day, we're all people.
Yeah, when I think back over my career, and, I would have never, ever dreamt that I would have some of the opportunities that I've had. Certainly would have never thought I'd been president of the CLDA. And when I think about it, and when I look back over that time frame, there were some people who, I'll call them mentors, but they seen something in me that I didn't see. Mm-hmm. But they believed in me, which encouraged me. Mm-hmm. Then I look at it, and there's times in our lives where you really got to focus on balance. Because in life, if your family life, your health, your spiritual life, your career, if you don't have that right balance between the four, all of them suffer.
Yeah.
And I've been blessed, had good family supporting me, had people who believed in me and supported me and mentored me, built some wonderful relationships and, friendships in the association that when, all of us have been through those times, certainly, hurricane hit in New Orleans, whatever it is, we join together and we help each other. And early on in the association, people would ask me, Chuck, somebody asks you a question, you tell them exactly how to do it or what to do.
Yeah.
And found that unique. And I said, I had people doing that for me. You got to give back.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I could give somebody an operation manual, and if they don't have the passion and the desire, that manual is not going to mean nothing. They got to have that inside, that burning, And I would say, faith, family, and, the networking. Early in my career, I thought networking was going someplace and coming back and saying, I got 20 business cards. It's not. After you do this a while, and when you build that network and friendships, it's not like going to a conference for business, although you are.
Yeah.
It's like going to a college reunion because you love and you care about those people because you've shared part of your life with them.
Yeah. No.
So my faith, number one, and then the people that you surround yourself with, and really staying focused on that balance of faith, family, health, career, so it doesn't get upside down.
Yeah, I'm truly grateful you honed in on that part because, as I was saying earlier, I think sometimes that piece gets lost, and it truly is the most important piece. I was talking to someone in the industry the other day, and it was early in the morning, they were coming from the gym, and they were saying they've been in the gym the last few months and how it's been kind of one of the catalysts to helping out their professional career because now their mind, body, and health is all kind of connected to the wellness of the business. Right? It's truly, I think one of the things that, particularly in this space where it's 24/7. I mean, I know when you're in those businesses, like you don't really go to lunch. You're not hanging on the golf course. You're just going, and we lose a little bit of that. And so, stepping back away from that, having that balance, connecting back to your faith. And sort of your network, right? Your family, and then your extended network with your career and the colleagues is critical to how you show up in that business, how you find success. So, thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, so we're gonna wrap up here. But I thank you so much for all the things you've done. I failed to mention in the opening, he's also a CLDA Hall of Famer. I had the honor of giving him that honor when he was at a conference a couple years ago. You've been so much to so many people in this industry. You're one of the people that I think when you think about this industry in the space, one of the first names comes up is Chuck Moyer. Have you talked to Chuck? You need to go find out some information from Chuck. And so thank you for sharing your insights, for your wisdom with me over the years, but certainly with our audience today. It's truly an honor to sit here with you.
Well, it's my honor. And if my name comes up, it might not always be in good light. There may be some stories behind it, but
That means you're doing something.
but we're all in this together. Yeah, I've been blessed and recognized in ways I never thought possible. But Jason, you're the same.
Yeah.
And we could fill up the wall with names of people that are in that same profile. I'm humbled by it. I don't feel worthy of it, but certainly thankful for being blessed.
Yes, yes. Well, that's the First Family. Hope you enjoyed this episode with Chuck Moyer, who is truly a living legend in the space. Lots of information here for you. Chuck, thank you for being on the podcast. And we got to do this again soon.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
We're out. Peace out. Thank you.